Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. I'm Ruth Shelley, President of the Rotary Club of Portland. Welcome to our live weekly membership meeting. As our banner says, which is difficult without a wall behind me, but the banner is right here. Rotary opens opportunities to find solutions for today's challenges. Healing from the pandemic, recovery from the economic downturn, and peace building as we seek racial justice. This week, we focus on the first door, healing, as our speaker, Chef Lisa Schroeder, talks to us about the challenges she and her team have faced at one of my favorite restaurants, Mother's Bistro. But first, let's welcome Rotarian Bill Diaz for our reflection. Bill?
Thank you, Ruth. This is an appropriate week for a reflection, this being Thanksgiving week. And I am very thankful and appreciative of all the blessings we've had this year. For all of us, it's been a very difficult year, but sometimes when you're thankful, it doesn't always have to do with things that affect you personally. And what I find myself really thankful for this week is the vision at the Bybee Lakes Hope Center, which basically has taken the old Wapato jail and turned it into a shelter and a place for homeless people to be out of the elements with bathrooms and clean rooms and food and shelter, and also services to help them get back on their feet again. They're going to initially be able to house up to 75 people, and the vision is before too long, they're going to house up to 500 people, which will make a significant dent in the people who are living on the street. So I find myself this Thanksgiving very thankful for something that doesn't affect our family personally, but affects a lot of people in our city, and thankful for the work that Rotarians have done to make this vision true as well. So that's my reflection for today. Think well. Sometimes they say, don't ask for everything that you want, but rather appreciate everything that you have. That's my reflection.
Words of wisdom, Bill. Thank you. And we're going to be hearing about the Bybee Lakes Hope Center next month as one of our programs. If any of you would like to give a future reflection, please fill out the link provided in the chat box. And we are grateful for Corinne's newborn, Rio Ann de Torres. Last week, I announced the joy of her birth. If you would like to send celebratory caregrams to Corinne, Siobhan will put a link in the chat. Please do wish Corinne, her husband, and big sister Joni and baby Rio Ann a wonderful Thanksgiving. We're grateful for them. And now I'd like to ask that all Rotarians who have invited a guest to raise their hand. Don't know if Maria has joined us yet, but Siobhan, you can let us know if there are any guests. If you're a visiting Rotarian who came on your own, please raise your hand and introduce yourself. Welcome and thank you for attending our meeting. Just put your name in the chat and we are eager to greet you. Now I'd like to extend a happy anniversary to everyone who joined Rotary Club of Portland in November. We alternate each week, honoring birthdays and Rotary anniversaries for the month. Please note the names of these anniversary people and reach out to them with a call or an email, since keeping up our memberships during this time is exceptionally important. A special congratulations to Tom Kelly and Brian Rosenthal for 30+ years of service. Wonderful longevity in our club, and we're really grateful. Thank you all and happy anniversary. Now we have a little communications update. We updated the system that sends text message reminders to our members, and we had a couple of hiccups with the transition, not unexpected. That means you may have received a text message this morning without signing up for the service. Now, if you don't want to be receiving these texts, please let Siobhan know. On a positive side, it means that those with AT&T service that didn't sign up for the service are receiving messages again, including our own past president, Kate. If you didn't receive a text reminder this morning and you would like to, also let Siobhan know, and she will get your information added. So the quick message, we get texts every Tuesday. If you want them and you're not getting them, let Siobhan know. If you get them and don't want them, let Siobhan know, and we'll be good. Moving on, November's Committee of the Month is our Homelessness Solutions Committee. Please welcome Rotarian Dan Bramsky to talk about their work, the work they're doing. Dan?
Thank you, President Ruth. Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. Since it is the last week of the month of our Committee of the Month, I just wanted to take a few minutes to tell you about the Homelessness Solutions Committee and what we've been doing over the past year and what we're looking forward to doing in the upcoming year. While 2020 has been the most unusual of years, we were still able to complete our homeless education campaign, which seeks to educate other Rotarians as well as the public on the issue of homelessness in Portland, describing its causes, effects, and what is being done to combat it. We look forward to presenting this show virtually to other Rotary clubs in the near future, as well as displaying the show in person when appropriate. We've also been able to support some local organizations that are confronting homelessness, such as Stone Soup, Morrison Child and Family Services, and Harbor of Hope. Finally, we've also participated in a few service events with some organizations like the Salvation Army, the Blanchet House, and the Community of Hope. While our world seems to be on pause right now in so many ways, we're looking forward to continuing on our important work. At this time of critical need, we will be continuing to support local organizations combating homelessness and using our new funding guidelines, and we will be selecting some organizations to support. And once again, as soon as in-person service events are appropriate and safe for everyone, we're going to be restarting those as well. If you have any sort of interest in becoming part of the committee, you're more than welcome to join us. Our committee meetings are always the first Tuesday of the month at 1:30, roughly right after our luncheon meetings here. And if you want to get signed up to be on our list, I'm going to go ahead and put my email address in the chat box here in just a minute. And we invite you to stop by even once just to check us out and to see what we're doing. And also, finally, I want to say thank you so much to the club for your continued support of our committee and the important work that we do. Thank you. Ruth, you're muted.
I apologize. Thank you, Dan. I'm so grateful for all the work that the Homelessness Solutions Committee is doing. Your work could never be more important or more relevant. And now we're going to disappear and enter a virtual table talk. Please introduce yourselves to the others in your group. And a minute or so before you come back to this main meeting, you'll get a visual heads up. And may I suggest a topic for your discussion? You might talk about how have your Thanksgiving plans changed this year? And how might those changes actually be for the positive? Here we go. See you in a few minutes. And now on to our program. After our speaker today is finished, if you'd like to ask Lisa a question, Maria, if she's here, will moderate the Q&A through the chat box. And I haven't seen Maria join us yet. Either Kate or I will be able to do that. Maria's here? Good. And now, please welcome again Rotarian Dan Bramsky as today's chair of the day. Dan?
Thank you, President Ruth. Hello again, fellow Rotarians. I am very honored today to introduce the speaker of the day, Chef Lisa Schroeder, who is the executive chef and owner of Mother's Bistro and Bar. The story begins in 1992, while Lisa was juggling a marketing and catering career and raising her daughter. She realized there was no place that served the kind of food she would make if she had the time. She concluded that the world needed was a place which served mother food, slow-cooked dishes such as braises and stews made with love. From that moment on, Lisa was determined to open such a restaurant and spent the next 8 years working toward that dream. After working as the chef at Bisaw's, Lisa opened Mother's Bistro and Bar in 2000. Thankfully, the last 20 years have been riddled with success, including receiving the Restaurant of the Year award from Willamette Week And in 2009, Chef Lisa released her critically acclaimed cookbook, Mother's Best, and has appeared on the Today Show, QVC, and more. She is also the recipient of the Portland Business Journal's Businesswoman of the Year Award, the IACP Restaurateur Award of Excellence, National Restaurateur of the Year from Independent Restaurateur magazine, and the Woman of Achievement Award from the Oregon Commission for Women. Chef Lisa nurtures her community as well as her guests. She participates in numerous charities and causes, including Share Our Strength, Basic Rights Oregon, Americans for Gun Sense, Our House, the Raphael House, and the Bradley Engel House. She almost kind of sounds like a Rotarian. Today, she will talk to us about the challenges she and her team have had to navigate through in 2020. Chef Lisa will also share some favorite Thanksgiving recipes. And with that, I want to welcome Chef Lisa Schroeder. Welcome, Lisa.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. And yeah, when I find out more about what you do, it is what I do. And I believe that I wasn't just put on this earth for me, and that I live to serve in as many ways as I can. And so, like you said, Mother's opened in January of 2000, which was a dream come true. Everything I did from the time I had the idea in 1992 till the time I opened was focused on opening the restaurant of my dreams. So when people say, oh, you were an overnight success, the truth is, no, it was 8 years in the making. And thankfully, the way I was able to start my business was thanks to my then partner, who's now my husband, who gave me the seed money that I needed, because the SBA doesn't like to give you money if you don't have money. And so I needed to have some money of my own so that I had some skin in the game. And he gifted me that. And that's what gave the SBA the impetus to lend me the money. And there were some very helpful women, an organization of women that had started and helped me write my business plan and get the funding. And they were really helpful in getting me started. And so when we opened in January of 2000, thank gosh, we got great reviews, and we got Willamette Week's Restaurant of the Year that year. And we've grown. We started out small. We would only do maybe 100 covers or feed 100 people on a weekend brunch. And when we first opened, we served breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but business was not busy enough for us to be open all those meal periods. And so we contracted and only served lunch and dinner for a few years, and then expanded again and opened again for breakfast when people were knocking on our doors during the week as well as on weekends. And that was the thing with Mother's. Like, we expanded as the business grew. I took over the space next door to Mother's. It was called Rice Junkies, and I paid a pretty penny to buy their business out so that I could grow and move over. I opened up a second restaurant called Mamma Mia Trattoria, a few doors down, not because it was necessarily a dream of mine, but a real estate agent contacted me, said, "Are you thinking of expanding?" And in fact, I was, mainly because I had such great staff that wanted more hours. And I thought, well, a way to do it is, diversify. They can have two places they can work in. Of course, little did I know that if you're one company, if they work in one place, it's considered the same business. And so, but anyway, so I opened Mamma Mia, and that was East Coast Italian food, chicken Parmesan, red sauce. And thank God that was a good success. But after doing that for about 4.5 years, I was wearing myself down. And I actually opened up yet another little tiny business next to Mamma Mia, mainly to help a friend who was building furniture have an outlet for his furniture. And it then morphed into, well, we should have an espresso bar so people would want to come in. Well, if we have espresso, we should have sandwiches, which then morphed into, well, why don't I make a sandwich nobody makes in Portland? Let me cure my own beef and I'll make corned beef sandwiches from scratch. And that was called Balabusta. But that was a short-lived thing. And really, it took me off my game, because what I really needed to focus on, and what I've learned over the years, is polish the apple. And Mother's was always the dream. I had the idea back in 1992 when I was working for Weight Watchers, trying to figure out what I was going to do for my family for dinner that night. And I'm like, okay, I could do Thai food, we could do Mexican, we can do Chinese. But if I wanted meatloaf and mashed potatoes, there was no place to get it. So Mamma Mia was a success, but I decided somebody who was working for me at one point said, Lisa, you're no longer just a restaurant, you're a company. And that's when I said, whoa, back here, I don't want a company. I want to be able to touch my guests. I want to be in my space. It's not about more money. It's about quality and lifestyle and keeping my dreams true. And so I sold Mamma Mia back in about 2006 or 7. And I sold the business and focused exclusively on mothers. And that was really a great move. And in hindsight, I wish I hadn't done another business, but you live and learn. And but I sold it and I made the money at least I put into it. So I didn't sell it for a loss. And Mothers has been doing really well. And we were doing so well that it's so crazy that people couldn't even get in the front door. And I was like wincing where people would be stuck like sardines in the hallway of the lobby and didn't have a place to wait. And my building in downtown Portland had come up for sale. And I had offered my landlord at the time $3 million to buy the building. And he came back and said to me, well, no, I want more than that. And the building wasn't worth it. And I knew how bad that building was since I was living in it for 20 years. And I came back and I said, no, I'll offer you 275. And he went at 2.75 million. And he ended up selling it for 2.8 to somebody else in San Francisco from California who had nothing to do with the building. So with that, I felt defeated. I felt like my heart had been in this building for 20 years. It so did not serve us well. It was so not meant to be a restaurant. And but I was about to double down and put more money down on the place and spend $500,000 to make it sort of a little better. And I started to look for a place where I could do a pop-up while we were renovating Mothers. And I went to the Embassy Suites Hotel and saw Portland Prime, what had been Portland Prime, the shell of a restaurant. And I walked through it and I said, now, why am I going to improve that horrible location when there's this 2.5 blocks away that makes sense, where everything is on the same floor, where, there's enough air conditioning, where my employees won't be suffering because they're in a tiny kitchen. And so I began to turn the wheels to see if I could actually move my restaurant, which to pick up and move a successful business is crazy. And in hindsight, maybe it really was crazy given COVID. But, at the time, I just felt that this was the right thing to do because I wanted Mothers to live on beyond me, because Mothers isn't just about me. It's about a vision. It's about a concept of a place where people can go and eat home-cooked food made with love in an ambiance that's warm and fuzzy, fed to you by people who really care about your experience. And I just felt that if Mothers stayed where it was and there was an earthquake, the building would crumble. It wasn't tenable. And so I up and moved my restaurant, even though I didn't have to. I had 7 years left on my lease when I moved. So it was a really big risk I was taking, but I decided to make that move. And one of the things you had asked, do I have any stories about other mothers working in my kitchen? One of the things that we do at Mothers is we feature the cuisine of a different mother every month, because while I was working on the menu, I knew that there was going to have to be some staples that would never change, right? Pot roast, meatloaf, chicken, and dumplings. These are motherly dishes that have to be served every day. But how are we going to be stimulated and keep things interesting? Well, I came up with the idea of the mother of the month, the mom. And each month we feature the cuisine. We tell her story, and then we feature her cuisine. So we'll have a Mediterranean mother in the summer months. We'll feature a Ukrainian mother in the winter months. And that's how we stay seasonal and keep things interesting. And one of our first mothers was from Austria, and she was a Holocaust survivor. And she came in the kitchen and she was teaching me make schnitzel and we were she needed an ingredient. She said, yes, give me the margarine. I need that margarine. And I'm like, margarine? We don't carry margarine. And then she enunciated a little better. And then it was marjoram, which is an herb. So we eventually figured out what she was asking for. And instead of looking to bring her butter, we went to the spice rack and brought her spices. And it was just funny how after she had worked all day, she couldn't wait for her glass of whiskey at the bar so she could relax after having worked with us for a bit. But we've had some really fun times cooking with mothers and over the years. And so we did move mothers about 1.5 years ago to the Embassy Suites Hotel on the ground floor between Ash and Pine, nice corner space. And we had a really successful first year. We learned a lot in our first year, that we were too big, that it doesn't mean that just because you have so many seats in a restaurant doesn't mean you have to seat them. And we learned that we cannot feed all those people in a quality way. So we contracted back and set aside part of the restaurant for just waiting for tables, because we knew that we couldn't feed everybody as fast as we'd like and as well as we'd like if we tried to feed the whole world at the same time. So we learned that, and we were really successful. And then the problem is that I still had my old location. Okay, I still had 7 years left on that lease. I thought it would be easy to sublet. It's not. When people are saying, well, you know, the economy is going bad due to COVID, I got to tell you, the economy was not good before COVID. And while we're seeing all these restaurants crumble right now, things were very tenuous even before then. And I can tell you, because I was trying to sublet my restaurant for 1 year, and I thought, well, that would be a shoo-in. It was a successful location. But no, there was a lot of empty spaces in Portland, and were vacant before COVID, and now there's going to be a lot more vacancies after. So we were real successful. And now what happened is that I started to see the handwriting on the wall in December. I'm reading the New York Times, December 2019. I'm seeing what's happening in Wuhan. And, you know, I never thought it could jump the ocean, but starting in January, things were starting to get, it was starting to look not very good. I closed the doors. I tried for over 1 year to try different concepts at my old location. I did Southern comfort food. I tried to promote a chef, a man from Mississippi who had worked for me. And I tried to give him an opportunity, and I made him the chef at Mother's Velvet Lounge, my old location. We tried to make it kind of Southern food, and people really weren't knocking down the doors. And we tried a few different concepts, but really nothing was taking off. And by January 31st, I decided I needed to shut those doors because I was losing money every day. So I shut the Velvet Lounge in January, and then February came and things started to look not very promising for us. And I started to get the wheels in motion for takeout and delivery. I started to do some research on computer companies and this, and doing our own online ordering. And so when the governor did shut down in March, I felt like, well, I'm ahead of the game. And I wanted to be open because I thought that Portland would need us. I thought that Portland would need Jewish penicillin, and people were going to be sick and they'd need us to, and they'd want to call us for us to deliver to them. Well, we were open from the time the governor shut everything down. And then by June, I had lost about $60,000 trying to stay open. First of all, you know, being open, I had 102 employees when we were shut down. And to be open to employ 6, 7, to me that's not the point. I mean, I'm trying to keep everybody together, and 6 people does not a restaurant maintain. And we were losing so much money, it wasn't worth it. And then when the protests started, on the first week of June, I had my staff saying to me, well, do you want us to come in? We can't get over the bridge. We can't get home. We can't get to work. So I began to think, okay, well, I need to, this is just pointless. There was really no point in staying open any longer, because let's look at this situation. Downtown Portland, people eat breakfast downtown when they're traveling. Well, there are no travelers with COVID. People eat lunch in my restaurant. Why? Because they're working in their offices. There are no office workers downtown in Portland. And then people would eat dinner in my place if they were going to the theater, the plays, or sporting events, or if there was a population that lived downtown. But there is nobody that really lives downtown. And so we had no dinner business. And when you really think about it, if somebody's going to cook food and they're home and they're stuck, what kind of food are they going to make? Mother food, which is, I was busy cooking it because people were too busy running around, didn't have time to cook at home. But now they had the time. They don't need me to make meatloaf. They can make meatloaf. They don't need me to make the chicken soup. Most people can manage that. So really, there was no point in trying to stay open. And the final nail in the coffin were the protests that my staff could not get back and forth to work. So it's not the protests that are keeping me out of business, though. You know, it's not the protest that is shutting downtown Portland. Yeah, it's scaring people away, but I think most of you will know, have concluded that people in Portland are scared to come downtown, and they've been scared to come downtown for the last 10 years. So yes, the homeless situation is more apparent. It's more obvious to people because now they really have nowhere to go. And so people drive downtown and they see the tents that the mayor is letting happen, which I don't think is a bad thing because they have nowhere to go until the city can figure out how to address the homelessness, which they're starting with Wapato, which is a really beautiful thing to help get people treatment. But there's so many things that we need to do as a community to help our community. So I really feel an affinity with your organization. And one of the things that Mothers is doing, initially while we were still open, I was going to partner with Chef Jose Andres, who was going to come down. He goes to wherever there's a disaster and feeds the hungry. So I'd invested in a ton of to-go equipment, to-go containers, and I was going to do like 600 meals possibly a day. But when we decided to shut down because it wasn't feasible, I was left with the containers. Plus, they didn't really come to town. And there are some organizations that you have helped that are feeding the homeless. But now I have partnered with Don't Shoot Portland, which is the Oregon arm of Black Lives Matter. And Teresa Rayford and her daughter are going to be working with volunteers coming into our kitchen at Mothers. And they're going to be using it to cook for the homeless over the next few months and seeing how that works out. So while our kitchen is now quiet, and it has been since June, I'm happy to announce, at least to you, that we're going to have it be used for good purposes and to help feed those that are hungry. And I'm also glad that we have so many spices and stuff left over. When like we shut the door, it was like Rip Van Winkle, you know, and so we're able to use some ingredients that we had around. And I said, you know, please use the spices. I've got bread in the freezer, use that up. So that'll allow us, when Mothers does reopen, to have fresh stuff. And it really is a good for them because then they don't have to invest in things like salt and pepper. You know, they have all that right there for them. So that was a good relief. So I'm happy that I can share that with you because I know that's what you all are about. And it's what we have in common. And, you know, for Thanksgiving, I got to tell you that I'm for the first time in 30 years, I'm not cooking Thanksgiving dinner. You know, the compulsive person in me was toying with the idea of gathering my troops and cooking Thanksgiving dinner and, you know, making a few $1,000s. But the yin person in me is trying to find the balance and recognize that, you know, things happen for a reason. And maybe I need to take this time this year to give myself a break. And rather than cooking for the masses, I can't even cook for myself and my family because I don't have an oven. I could go down to the restaurant and use the oven, which people have pointed out to me. But at my home, I don't have an oven because my kitchen has been torn up and we don't have a contractor lined up yet. So I can't even cook Thanksgiving dinner at home if I wanted to. So I'm taking a break this year. And I hope other people use this as a way to take the pressure off of themselves, because what I've learned with COVID is, you know, it's a wake-up call. We have all been putting pressure on ourselves, this rat race that we have all been living under, and you know, which didn't make the people able to cook mother food at home and motherly dishes. But I think nothing is better than a home cooked meal. So I would always defer to motherly, to people cooking at home over what I do. So for me, there's blessings as well as a curse. And you know, we downtown is the way the situation is downtown. And I was asked this by like an international reporter. I said, downtown is the way it is because of COVID and the pandemic. We are in the situation we're in because of that, not because of the protests and not because of the homeless. None of this would be the situation we're in were it not for COVID-19. So I thank God that I put aside money for my retirement, which I'm now using to live off of. And I hope that we will be able to continue on a little longer until we can reopen. And if it's not until, I've been staying in touch with my staff since we closed. We have periodic Zoom meetings. In fact, I owe them an email, which I'm going to email today, just an update on where we are. But I've tried to stay in contact with my staff because to me, the saddest part of what has happened with COVID is not the loss of money. I don't care about money. And the loss of my ability to feed people. The greatest fear is the loss of the amazing staff that we have built over the last 20 years. I have not taken it for granted. As Bill was saying, Thanksgiving thanks. Every day I gave thanks for the people who worked for me, because what we built was unlike anything else. It was truly a family. I know they throw this out at some restaurants. Oh, we're a family. And then you turn away and COVID is over and you never hear from your boss again. But I really feel that the people and the crew that we had built up made mothers who we were. And as I get little emails from one who's moving to California and another star who's going off to this universe over here, I honestly cry. I cry because it's a great loss, but it's also like when you have children who go off to college, they need to grow and they need to be who they are. So, the greatest loss for COVID is my staff. And then for Thanksgiving, I've got lots of recipes in Mother's Best Cookbook. If anybody needs a copy, I've got quite a few. But I always like to stick with traditional foods. People are, all the magazines are coming up with the latest. Oh, you can use this brine or that brine. Salt and water is all you need to brine your turkey. I highly recommend brining your turkey overnight for 24 hours and then taking it out and then roasting it with salt, pepper, and butter. And that's all you need. And I love a traditional stuffing. Bread, onions, celery, sage, butter, parsley, you're good. I don't like the newfangled. I want to eat traditional foods. How many times a year do we eat Thanksgiving dinner? Thanksgiving. How many times a year do you cook turkey? Me, it was once a year. So I like to eat the traditional favorites and stick with that and not get too crazy. But what other questions? Why don't I want to just throw it out to you because I could yammer on and maybe just throw out and I can answer any questions you might have.
Thank you so very much, Lisa. This is Maria. I'm going to be leading our Q&A portion, and not to worry, there's already a queue. People have lined up like the restaurant with questions. So I'm going to start our questions with Rotarian Bill Diaz. Bill?
Well, thank you, Maria. Lisa, I have stood in line to be in your restaurant too, and I love the food. I just want you to know I can't wait till you reopen.
Thank you, Bill.
I'm wondering, you mentioned Don't Shoot Portland for now. When you reopen, do you have any way for gleaners from nonprofits to come in and get your leftover food so that other folks could be fed as well?
Well, that's a really good question. And the truth of the matter is I'm a good mother, and that means I don't have any waste. And at Mothers, we really never threw food away. We never produced more than we could sell. And so on one hand, I'm sorry to say, no, I don't have any food. But the other hand is that's because we're not wasting food. And when I was a cook in New York City, I worked at 4-star restaurants in L'Esplanade, and we would cut vegetables and throw away half the vegetable to make the perfect square on the plate. And every time I was doing that, I was vowing, when I have my own restaurant, I will not throw away food. So we don't throw away food.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Rotarian Mike Pendergast. Mike? Oh, you're going to need to unmute yourself, Mike. I see you're moving, but if you can unmute.
I clicked unmute. Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
It's such a blessing to the community, and it's great to see you lead with such heart in your business. It's inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It is all about the love. That's my line, but it's really true.
Yeah, I can see that. That's great. And my question is about your employees. Would you like to expand a little bit about your relationship with your employees? What's worked? What hasn't? How have they been as a partner, given all the love that you put out with your employees?
I'll tell you. First of all, I pay my employees well. And I've had health insurance before Obamacare, okay? I've had health insurance from the get-go. it's bad because I kind of like I kind of become like their friends, and so I open up my house for parties, and we socialize, and when they have problems they come to me. So it's a dual-edged sword. And an example of how I love my employees, I had an employee that was hit by a car a year ago. He was dragged 50 feet, broke all his bones, his face, and now I'm the trustee of his account because he has nobody else he can turn to. So that's how much I love my employees. He worked for me on and off for 20 years. He was the face at my door, and I could not turn my back on him. So that's how much I love my people. And the way I show it is, not only good pay and not only part of my family, but staying in touch with them through COVID, telling them, and that they can get in touch with me at any time. And for people in the food service industry, we're kind of on the same page because it's almost a blessing that we're laid off this amount of time, because none of us would have had a break in our lives ever. When you're in this business, and at Mother's, I remember it was so busy. I turned to one of my cooks and I said, how are we going to continue to do this? This is not tenable. How can we keep on? I mean, because we were always running. I couldn't have a conversation with you I would be, hi, okay, I got to go. I couldn't be a human being. And so for us in the food business, that I'm grateful to the unemployment for my staff, and I hope that it gets renewed until we can reopen and be reunited. And for those that need to go on and get jobs, some of my people have, and they have thankfully been able to get jobs. But those that are wanting to camp out and wait until I reopen, I have those that say that did get other jobs, and they say, as soon as you reopen, we're going to come back. And we're even telling our current boss that we're going back to Mother's. So, I just hope we can rebuild a semblance of what we had before. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Our next question comes from Rotarian Al Jubitz. Al?
What advice would you give policymakers at both the state and federal level to assist this industry?
Well, first of all, this industry got so screwed because the insurance companies, we all got exclusions in our policies that said that a virus, you're not covered. So we, most of us thought we were covered in such a situation, but the most horrible thing is that the insurance companies get to say, no, you're not covered. So the governor and the US government can make the insurance companies pay. They have the power. It's been done before, but we need our people in power to do that. The other thing is our governments have bailed out many industries, farm industry, airline industry, billions upon billions of dollars. There's a hashtag Save Restaurants for independent restaurateurs. That has already passed in the Congress, a bill that would help small independent restaurants. And here I am fighting for it. But by the way, I wouldn't even qualify for the funds because I Mother's made too much in her last year of business. But I'm fighting for it because these kind of aid would help so many businesses. And it passed through Congress, but instead of the Senate passing it, they're spending all their time passing judges. So there are mechanisms to assist, but we need our powers. We need the governor to call an emergency session, and there's pressure being put on her to do that, to listen to not only this, but also, for example, the OLCC won't let us sell cocktails to go. And again, I'm fighting for it, but I'm not even open. But we can't sell cocktails to go. It has to be passed by the legislature. The OLCC cannot change that law. So we need them to open up and to pass some of these laws to help save everybody.
So a follow-up, would you support a means test for restaurateurs or that don't have savings might get a grant or a loan, whereas yourself that's been very successful over the years and has a savings account would be treated differently?
Well, I understand why they're trying to help businesses that are smaller than mine, because so many restaurants run on such a tight shoestring and live minute to minute, paycheck to paycheck, the owner as well as the employee. And that's why we're going to see so many restaurants fail. When things reopen in Portland, more than half are going to be gone, probably 75%, because restaurants live so close
Yeah.
to their earnings. So the money would help those that are still in business that can use the money to reopen, because without help, these businesses won't be able to reopen.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank
You're
you
my
for your
neighbor,
hard
by the
work.
way.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
Oh, nice.
yeah. You live
Come
on
by.
Cable Parkway, right?
Oh, that's my brother.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
he's still in the restaurant business.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
I
he's
was
my
there
neighbor.
for 34 years.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Rotarian Dan Bransky. Dan?
Yes, a different question of a different nature here. Do you have any tips that you would recommend for helping children who are picky eaters or not very adventurous learn to go outside of their comfort zone?
Well, I must admit that being a chef, I make different food for my twins. I'm raising my twin 8-year-olds Monday through Friday. We do homeschool, which is another advantage to me not having to go to work because I can at least take care of these boys. But one is so I like one that I have one grandchild that likes a scrambled egg and one that likes an over hard egg. So I make them the eggs the way they want them. You know, that's grandma the chef. But what my rule is at least taste it. They get bonus points if they taste the food. So yes, if you're going to make chicken Parmesan, for example, you'll put the cheese and the tomato sauce on yours, and they'll say, no, I just want my chicken plain. And so you give theirs their breaded chicken, and you say, here, but take a bite of mine and see if you want it like this the next time. So if at least you could get them to taste the food, if you could find some sort of reward for just tasting it, you might make some headway in getting them to eat different foods. That's one hint.
Oh, I love that. Thank you, Lisa. Our next question comes from Rotarian Drew McHenry Williams. Drew.
Hi, Lisa. Drew from Morrison Child and Family Services.
Oh,
I just
hi.
I just want to say your love is felt in so many corners, and gosh, you've always had time for a warm conversation, however brief. So I'm grateful for everything you do for nonprofits. That's included Morrison, and just lots of love back to you.
Thank you.
That's all I
Thank
wanted
you.
to say.
I'll take it.
Thank you. You bet.
Well, and that's a perfect, because that was our final question, Drew. Thank you so much, Lisa. I will hand it back over to President Ruth Shelley. Ruth?
Thank you, Maria, and thank all of you. What great questions. Next week, we'll have an equally important program. We'll hear from my friend, Dr. Miles Davis, president of Linfield College, on how higher education is changing at Linfield. You won't want to miss it, and this meeting will once again be live via Zoom at noon on Tuesday. Well, today I want to thank our virtual guests, especially Rotarian Dan O'Kane from the Pearl District. Welcome, Dan. We're so glad you joined us. Bill, thank you for your reflection. And Dan, thank you for your presentation on behalf of the Homelessness Solutions Committee, the introduction of our speaker, and your very pertinent question of picky eaters as we go into Thanksgiving. Finally, Lisa, thank you for a heartfelt presentation that made me hungry, not only for great mother food, but also to eat out in our favorite restaurants again. Thank you especially for your service to our community. And now allow me to wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving. 2020 has been a roller coaster year, including for our club. I am grateful for all of you who continue our fellowship as Rotarians on these meetings and our service above self, regardless of challenging times. In spite of the reduced size of our Thanksgiving celebrations or the disappointment of canceled travel, let's all reflect on the many things we can be grateful for, including each other. And now, as we enter into a new Rotary week, please join me in opening the doors of opportunity for healing, for recovery, and for peace building. As Rotarians, we are here to make our world healthier, more sustainable, and with justice for all. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Have a wonderful holiday week, and this meeting is adjourned.